do. He told them, "Do not practice extortion, do not falsely accuse anyone, and be satisfied with your wages." Now the people were filled with expectation, and all were asking in their hearts whether John might be the Christ. John answered them all, saying, "I am baptizing you with water, but one mightier than I is coming. I am not worthy to loosen the thongs of his sandals. He will baptize you with the Holy Spirit and fire. His winnowing fan is in his hand to clear his threshing floor and to gather the wheat into his barn, but the chaff he will burn with unquenchable fire." Exhorting them in many other ways, he preached good news to the people. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Good morning, everyone. Friends, what a wonderful day it is. You know, I want to reflect with you just a little bit about the Blessed Mother. And Mary, Our Lady of Guadalupe, is really the perfect, I think, example or the perfect symbol for us, the perfect person for us for Advent. Because Advent is all about preparing our hearts for the coming of Jesus Christ, making room in our hearts for Jesus Christ. And that's what the Blessed Mother has done for 490 years. This day, 490 years ago, the original image, the original tilma, was shown to the Archbishop of Mexico, of then the newly created Mexico City. So, for 490 years, the Blessed Mother has been teaching people how to create space in their hearts for Jesus Christ. And that's precisely what she wants to do with us during Advent. So I want to reflect with you just a little bit about this image and talk to you about why the image is so helpful. I think this is one thing that we should really understand. The image is an enculturated image. I think that's one of the reasons why it's difficult for Americans to relate to Our Lady of Guadalupe, is because it's enculturated. That means that there's so much symbolism that comes from Aztec culture that the people understood in those days, and then there's also symbolism that comes from the Spanish culture of the Spanish missionaries. But we should understand that when the Blessed Mother appeared 490 years ago, there was no border between this land and our land and theirs. There was only one continent. And it's from that place that Christianity in this world sprung forth. In Mexico City, somebody told me about this last night. Mexico City, in the old churches, there is this ancient baptismal font. It's the first baptismal font in the New World. And it says, etched in stone on the side, "From this font will be born the faith of the Americas." How beautiful. How beautiful. We are here today in large part because of her. And so I want to reflect with you about the Blessed Virgin, about Our Lady of Guadalupe, and why it's important even for us, even if you have no Hispanic blood in you. That's okay. This is very important for us. Our Blessed Mother, when she appeared in 1531, about 10 years before that, the Hispanic missionaries, the Spanish missionaries got there, and they were having very little success at converting the indigenous people. Part of that was because some of the Spaniards were mistreating the people, and so it was like a contrary sign. But the church preached and preached and preached, and they had very little success. And the Archbishop of Mexico even wrote back to the Pope, "I don't know what we're going to have to do. We might have to abandon this mission because we're not having much success at all." Jesus Christ decided to take the matter into his own hands, and he sent his Blessed Mother. And so he asked Juan Diego, one of these early Christian converts, and he was very faithful. He was in the social stratus of his time, he was at the very bottom. And he readily told the Blessed Mother that when she said, "I want you to go to the Archbishop and I want you to give him this message. I want a temple to be built here on this hill so that people might come to know my son." And he said, "Listen, don't send me. Please don't send me. I am nobody. I'm no one. Why don't you send one of the rich people? Send one of the people that have a lot of clout." And she said, "No, I want you. I want you to do this." So he went to the Archbishop. They kind of put him aside. They were like, "Okay, yeah, whatever." They made him wait for hours and hours and hours, and then the Archbishop didn't see him. He goes back to the Blessed Mother. The Blessed Mother says, "Go back again." He says, "Please send somebody else." And she says, "No, I'm choosing you." He goes back again, and finally he gets to see the Archbishop, and the Archbishop says, "Tell you what, bring me a sign. If she is who she says she is, if she is the Holy Mother of God like she says, she'll give you a sign." So he goes back, and he says he wants a sign. And so she said, "Okay, come to me on this day and I will give you my sign." She said, "Come to me on the day that was December 12th. Well, Juan Diego goes home and he sees his uncle there, Juan Bernardino, who is dying. Like a day or two later, his uncle thinks he's dying. In Aztec culture, the uncle held a place of prominence in the family, almost more so than the father. It's very different to us. It's very foreign to us. But when Juan Diego's uncle was dying, he said, "Listen, I need you to go get me a priest because I don't want to die without the sacraments." It was about a 12-kilometer distance between where they lived and Tenochtitlan, which is where Mexico City is, modern-day Mexico City. So Juan Diego goes and he's all worried his uncle's going to die, and he tries to go around the hill. He tries to hide from the Blessed Virgin. You don't hide from the Mother of God. And that's what he found out. The Blessed Virgin saw him, and she came down the hill and she said, "Where are you going?" And he's like, I'm so sorry. My uncle's dying." And she says, I'm going to come back to this point. She said, "Am I not here who am your mother? Are you not under my care? Are you not safe in my arms? Do what I am asking you to do, and don't worry about your uncle. I will take care of him." I'm going to come back to that because that's very important what the Blessed Mother teaches us. At the same time, Mary appeared to Juan Bernardino, and she cured him. And she's the one who told Juan Bernardino her name. She said, "I am Holy Mary of Guadalupe, the mother of the true God." So it's from Juan Bernardino that we get the name of Our Lady of Guadalupe. So Juan Diego, she says, "Go up to the hill and cut these roses." It was December. It was cold. Flowers don't grow in December, even in ancient Mexico City or ancient Tenochtitlan. He goes up the hill, and it's like he's in springtime. He hears the birds singing. He sees all these beautiful flowers. He sees everything growing up like it's been raining and the sun has been shining and it hasn't been cold and everything is dead. And so he picks these roses, and he takes the roses down the hill in his tilma, and he presents them to Mary. And Mary herself organizes the roses in his tilma. And she closes up the tilma and she says, "Do not show anyone but the archbishop." So he goes to the archbishop's residence, and the servants are kind of making fun of him. They're poking fun of him a little bit. They're trying to open up his tilma, and he's like, no. So finally he gets into the archbishop's presence, and he says, "Here is the sign you asked for." And he drops the tilma, and he thinks it's the roses. Juan Diego thought the roses were the symbol. And at that moment, the archbishop and his assistants, with tears in their eyes, fall on their knees. And they recognize that they had been receiving a message from the Mother of God all along, and they didn't believe. This image is different than all other images of the Blessed Mother because it is painted by the hand of God. Every other image that we have of Mary is painted by the hand of a human artist, according to the recollection of the visionary. This image was painted by the hand of God, so that means everything is where it's supposed to be. There's nothing out of place in this image. Everything is there for a reason. And this is why the image was so powerful. About 20 years after the apparitions and the image was given, there was 9 million plus baptisms in what is now today Mexico. Friends, the Mexico as we know it owes its existence to her, the Mother of God. She gave birth to Jesus Christ in that land, and much of what we know as Catholics in the United States comes from her. We owe it to her as well, the Mother of God. And I want to point out some things, and you can come up after Mass to look at this. But I want to point out some things on the tilma that makes this tilma so powerful. These are enculturated signs and symbols that we don't understand, but the Aztecs saw them immediately. We talk about this as an image, but it's really a codex. And codexes tell a story, and they're multi-layered and multifaceted. And that's what the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe is. So you see, first of all, I want to show you something. You might ask yourself, okay, why do we have matlachines dancers in here? Because matlachines dancers, this is an ancient form. For the Aztec people, dancing was the highest form of prayer. And so it's an ancient form of worship and adoration that goes back to pre-Christian times. When the Spanish missionaries got there, they saw that the people were dancing for pagan gods, for false gods. And they said, you know what? We want them to dance for Jesus Christ, not for these false gods. So they Christianized the matlachines dance. And they said, you will no longer dance for the pagan gods, you'll dance for the Mother of God. And why did they say that? Because the Blessed Mother is standing in the position of a matlachines dancer. This is key. So you can see, if you come up here, you'll be able to see her right foot. It's like poking out from under her garment, but you can't see her left foot. In those days, the Matlachinas dancers would stand before the king, whom they thought was an incarnation of their god, of their Aztec, the sun god, and they would stand at attention. And this is how they would stand at attention. It's going to be hard to see. They would lift up their left foot, and they would kind of stand on the ball of their foot. And they would have their bow, and they would keep their bow in front of them, and then they would have the maraca, and they would have it behind their backs. Or maybe it's the opposite. I can't remember. It's flipped around. All the Matlachinas dancers are correcting me, all right? Like, come on, Father, all right? And they would stand there, and they would bow before the one they considered to be God in the flesh. Mary is standing as a Matlachinas dancer. So she's telling them, first of all, listen, I'm standing before God just like you think you are. But there's more. Not only is she standing as a Matlachinas dancer, she has her hands folded. She prays like the Christians. That would have been key because the Aztec people and the Indian tribes around them didn't pray with their hands folded like this. That's a Christian thing. And her hands are pointed up, right? Right below her neck, there's a brooch, and it's got a cross on it. And that's the symbol of the Christians, right? That's not an Aztec symbol. So she's pointing to the cross. And then you see her standing before the sun ray, the sun blast, right? In the Aztec world, in Aztec mythology, the sun was the symbol of the greatest God, the highest God. So she's blocking out the sun. In the ancient world, that was an affront to one's God. What she's saying is, I'm more powerful than your strongest God. She's standing on the crescent moon. The crescent moon was a symbol of the goddess of war, the second most powerful god in the Aztec world. She's standing on it. I'm more powerful than your first and second gods. But I am not God. See, that's the thing. People could have thought, she's clearly a goddess. No. Goddesses don't pray to other gods. Goddesses don't bow their heads as if they're bowing before someone else greater than them. Now this is key. This is what really drove it all home.